Hello, everyone. My name is Samson Diamond, and I'm really excited to be participating in this Q&A with you. And I'm going to get started with the first question, which came from Gamo, and it was regarding the variety of musical styles that influenced me. Gamo, so as you know, I grew up in Soweto, and Soweto is a really diverse township with really eclectic mix of musical cultures. And I was lucky enough to be in a household where we appreciated all kinds of music. So I think that is an important aspect of my musical upbringing because I really think that it attributes to enrich your musical attributes. So, but also more stylistically, coming from Basket to a Soweto String project with the founding director, Rosemary Naldin, having been a really extensive member of the Baroque period performance practice in the UK. And further to your question regarding how music has changed my life, uh, well, I've traveled to more than 25 countries across the world, and music is not only a job to me as first violinist of the Diamond String Quartet, it is also a passion. And I think the process of changing one's life has been a natural one, and willingly and unwillingly, I would say. And through that, I have found myself to have evolved and interacted with some of the most interesting people in the world. Next, I have a set of questions from Bali. And the first one being, when did I start learning the violin and what attracted me to it? So, Bali, I started playing the violin in 1994 at the age of 10 at a local community music program in Diepkloof. And there were a variety of circumstances that led me to it, not only just the violin, but to the program. And first was that it was an escape from home because I didn't want to spend too many of my afternoons there. My living conditions were not necessarily comfortable. And also, I didn't want to play any sports that would leave me in the streets. So being indoors and playing musical instrument seemed ideal at the time. And I also thought that musical instruments you would progress with the size. So I naively just thought, okay, so if you move from the violin, you go to the cello and double bass and so on. So I suppose I just chose the violin because it was readily accessible at the time when I started playing. Second question is, did you face any challenges or difficulties on your path, and how did you overcome them? This is a brilliant question, Bali. I think all of us, in many ways, throughout our lives, will face a multitude of challenges and difficulties. And as we are now during this crisis, and you'll find that there is no silver bullet solution. In fact, I think the most important thing is to reflect and learn from your challenges. I think resilience in the face of adversity is a strong character to have. And I think that there's always something for us to learn from our difficult paths. So, how did I overcome them? I don't think I have. Maybe I have or have not. I think the most important thing is always to look back and learn from your mistakes. Third question from Bali. Do I listen to violin music or are you open to other music genres? Bali, I didn't even know what violin music was until I started playing the violin. So I had, as I answered Gamo earlier, been influenced by a variety of musical styles from early childhood. And I am grateful for that, but because I think it has enriched my musical outputs. I think also the luxury of listening to one genre is almost obsolete these days. As you know, we are influenced by the world that we live in. So just last night I was listening to Hiromi, a Japanese jazz pianist, and I have found her performances to be incredibly inspiring. Definitely would recommend that for you for a bit of inspiration, and also to showcase the diverse cultural world that we live in. Fourth question from Mbali. What are your favorite pieces at the moment and why? Uh, that's a great question. Well, now that we find ourselves in lockdown during this pandemic, I have been listening to a bit of English sacred music, more specifically by John Tavener. Uh, I listened to The Lamb recently because I wanted to arrange it for a string quartet. I find the music incredibly pure and sacred, and I think all of us would benefit from listening to that kind of music. So that has been my latest dosage of sacred music. Next, I have questions from Njabulo, who is a bassist. And first question is, do you use any strategies to stay focused when you're practicing? And do you share any tips? Well, Njabulo, luckily for me, my goals are set up by the engagements that I have, meaning that, I mainly practice for concerts. So the pressure of preparing for those concerts and engagements enables me to remain focused. And also practicing is an incredibly lonely experience. So you have to be really, really good at solving problems, but also have to be incredibly creative. You have to stay focused. And I suppose the most important tip that I can share with you is to practice for a reason. Stay focused and practice for a reason. Third question from Jabulo. Did you have any bad playing habits? How did you work on them or prevent them? It's a very good question, Jabulo. I think I had a combination of really bad habits, between left and right hand and so on. And I think the thing about natural approach to playing is that it is misleading because I was thought to have a very natural approach to play, except that with that came some incredibly stubborn technical problems. And, of course, with some of the technical problems, you can find musical solutions to them. And if you don't solve some of those technical problems early on, then they become lifelong problems. So to prevent them, well, is to try and actually avoid them at all at a young stage in your during your learning path. So I would say that if you can avoid bad habits altogether. Fourth question I have from Jabulo is, how would I break down my practice schedule? For example, how long do I recommend practicing scales, pieces, and technical work? Well, to answer your question, Jabulo, it really depends on your level and your level of playing and what you are practicing for. I think every practice session needs to have a goal, and also during your busiest of times, that you try and not do any less than 2 hours of practice. So in that sense, then it means that you will, if you have 4 hours, then you will grade your time evenly, depending on the scales and pieces and what you're practicing for. But whatever the case may be, just try and practice no less than 2 hours a day for double bass anyway. And the last question I have from Jabulo is, when you learn to play a new piece, do I have any strategies that I use to make it easier to play it? Yes, absolutely. Most important thing I think would be fingering, and then I just aim to find the essence of the piece, understanding sort of the context, background, and the composer, where it's from, all of that, and I think that will always inform your approach. So that's very important, to understand the background on the piece, so it can inform your approach. The other thing will be, of course, depending on the difficulty of the piece, then you divide it in different sections, create different little studies, or even little